Yo, what up guys, Travic here, and today I want to talk about the Lightning Monk I have been playing. Very recently I put out a video talking about the progression of the Lightning Monk character that I started in Path of Exile 2. I played this character all throughout the campaign, and I'm now stepping into the end game. This character has been an absolute fantastic blast, and the campaign was super smooth sailing. My last video talked about how I did the axe, how I progressed the character, my choices with the skill tree, where I went with passives, and overall it just kind of walked you through my thought process of going through the campaign. Now that build for the campaign was great, and then I got to maps. And the sad reality is maps are really hard. And the sad reality is I can't just be carried anymore by the sheer brute force of damage. Sadly, going forward, I do need to come up with new tactics and new plans, and I probably do need to change a couple of things. Now, today we're going to be talking about those changes that I've made to the build. I've changed a couple of different things. I've changed up the passive tree just a little bit. I found some really cool solutions to charge stacking, and I'm going to give you guys an update of where I'm going with the build, how it works, what it looks like in maps, and just kind of give you an idea of maybe how you want to progress your monk going towards the end game. Now, originally going into the end game with my character out of the campaign, my resistances were completely shot. In typical Path of Exile fashion, they were like really low, close to zero. They were as close to negative as negative gets. And coming out of the campaign now, my resistances are starting to look pretty good. You know, we're talking about, we have, you know, positive fire, positive cold, positive lightning, even a little bit of positive chaos resistance, and we're pretty much cruising relatively well. I've managed to buy and trade for some upgrades on the Path of Exile 2 trade site, and if you haven't seen that before, I'll actually show you that really quick. If you come on over to pathofexile2.com, there's a trade button on the top here. You can click this, and you can use this to search and trade for items. And that was a big part of getting my monk up to speed and ready for endgame content. The biggest thing for currency right now is exalted orbs, and we're going to eventually find a way to help you get more exalted orbs or find you really nice farms. I've been talking to a couple of people so far, and they've come up with a really interesting way to do a lot of things, so I'll be sharing that with you after we do some testing and get a little bit more of information. Now, going forward, after you get out of the campaign and you start going into the end game, a couple of things that you're going to want to note about the monk. One, you're going to want to get your life and resistances a little bit higher. You're going to want to start to scale your energy shields. You're going to want to start to fix your resistances. You're going to want to start to work on your armor, your evasion, mostly evasion and energy shield, and armor too would be nice if you can. Two, you're going to want to find a way to deal with all the mobs. If you're copying what I've been doing and you're playing a lightning monk, you're going to need a way to stun or electrocute the mobs. And if you're playing cold, well, you just have innate freeze, and freeze is really powerful, and you just feel like a god because you freeze everything. But for us lightning enjoyers, we had to take a different approach, and I found that one of my best ways to handle and upgrade my monk was to find a way to survive in maps by electrocuting everything. So the first major change we're going to be talking about on the monk is I picked up these gloves. These gloves ended up, after today's live stream got really expensive, I picked these gloves up on stream, I put them on, and I started playing with them. And these gloves have been an absolute positive game changer for all the lightning enjoyers out there. These gloves serve two very specific purposes while playing lightning monk. The first one is it gives us electrocution. And as we see here, electrocution is an ailment that interrupts the target's action and prevents them from performing any action. And it just literally stuns them dead in their tracks for 5 seconds. You hit a mob with lightning damage, it immediately gets stunned. It is very visibly noticeable that that mob is stunned. It has electricity going all around it, and it looks like it stuck a fork in an outlet. It's very obvious that the mob is stunned. And the reason why this is so good is because, as a good friend of mine, Chronic Painless, says, is the best defense is a good freeze fence, but in our case, the best defense is a good just electrocute the heck out of everything and make it just stand still like it's been zapped by a million bolts of electricity. That's step one. Step two, a lot of monks decided that they were going to play with the whole frenzy, stacking, charge, building, combat frenzy. And combat's frenzy says gain a frenzy charge when you freeze, electrocute, or pin. Now, if you're playing a cold monk, you just absolutely freeze and generate a lot of frenzy charges. And the reason why this is so important is monks are stacking this with resonance. Resonance says that frenzy charges are now created into power charges. So we gain power charges instead of frenzy charges, and we pair it with combat frenzy. We get frenzy charges when we freeze. But since you and I are playing electricity or playing lightning, we can't freeze. And these gloves give us the ability to do electrocution and to generate our power charges. Now, power charge stacking on the monk, especially as a lightning monk, is something that you're going to want to do. This is a thing, you have to do it. It's really important to a lot of our skills. It charges up our charged staff. It gives us a lot of damage on our falling thunder, and it just kind of does everything we want it to do. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, we'll go to a zone really quick and I'll just kind of show you what I'm inferring. And this way it'll make a little bit more or a better understanding of what I'm talking about in terms of stacking. Now, if you're playing a monk, that you know, there's a couple major ways outside of what I just showed you to generate power charges, and those include calling the enemy using Killing Palm or siphoning it using the whole, is it called Siphon Strike? I actually removed it off my bar, so I don't even have it anymore because I don't need it anymore. But you siphon the shock off the mob and you get that beautiful charge. Now, one of the reasons why power charges are so important is when we generate power charges, our power charge is what gives us this charged staff, and charged staff is what gives us this lightsaber style effect. These beams of light are what really bring us to where we want to be, and we really need to be able to stack multiple amount of power charges to really take advantage of this lightsaber effect. Outside of that too, when we have a whole lot of power charges and we're power charge stacking, our falling thunder goes from this tiny little baby slap to I'm just gonna hit the whole screen. And we're able to go from tiny little baby slaps to just pretty much hit the entire screen. You see here, we have one power charge right now. We're just gonna consume it really quick. And you see, we do this tiny little baby slap, but you saw with charges, that charge hits the entire magnitude of the screen. When we pair our charge staff, our Tempest Flurry, and our Falling Thunder with our Tempest Bell, you've seen in the last video that we do an absolute metric ton of damage. Like, it is out of control. It is awesome. It does everything we want it to do. It completely and utterly just blows up all content very well. When we pair the charge stacking with the electrocute, we have this beautiful synergy of stunning and freezing all the mobs. We get tons of charges and we're able to do all of our damage very well. The problem is generating charges fast enough has been an issue. We just saw that we can indeed use Combat Frenzy. We can pair it with second wind support to cut this time down in half. I'm sure with quality it would go down even more, but still overall this is pretty slow. One charge every like 5 seconds is kind of like okay. It's kind of like whatever. It feels whatever. I talked to some people and they were using Sniper's Mark and they were doing some weird stuff with Sniper's Mark. And then I was talking to some people and they were doing stuff with like all kinds of different ways to generate frenzy charges. But to me, none of them felt really good. I even saw a video from a buddy of mine, Milky, who was doing, where is it? He was doing Profane Ritual, which was stealing charges from corpses while using an aura. And while that was also really cool, it didn't serve the needs of what I wanted because I wasn't able to generate charges fast enough to maintain and hold my Falling Thunder to where I wanted it to be. So now you just saw I went to an area and I had a bunch of charges consistently, and we're gonna go to a map and you're gonna see that again. And I'm getting and building my charges off of the Red Flare Conduit unique body armor. This body armor says you have a 20% chance to gain power charges, lose all power charges on reaching the maximum, shock you when you reach maximum power charges. Unfortunately, I haven't found a good solution to the shock yet. I'm still searching around for a solution to shock. There are some players that have recommended this belt. I'm gonna probably pick up this belt and mess around with it. I haven't bought this belt yet, but this has been a suggestion for fixing the shock problem. When I do that, I have to figure out where I'm putting the stats off my belt into other places. And if I can find a way to fix my belt, I'll probably end up picking up that belt. Currently, I'm solving my shock with my charms, and I'm gonna get more charm slots to have more shock absorbance. But this is just kind of where I'm starting. If you have good ideas for ailment immunity, please let me know in the comments down below. I am searching desperately for other solutions to ailment immunity. Not having Purity of Elements has been pretty mind-blowing to me. And if you've never played Path of Exile 1, Purity of Elements was a thing that would give you immunity to ailments, so like you wouldn't have this shock problem. The reason why this is such a problem and the reason why we need to solve this is shock is an ailment that causes the target to take 20% increased damage. So when we constantly fill our power charges, we're constantly self-shocking, and self-shocking makes us take more damage, which makes us a little squishier, makes things a little awkward. The reason too why this armor is so good is when we pair it with things like Falling Thunder and Tempest Fury, we hit so hard and so fast, we're pretty much always at full charges, and it's never really an issue. So we can just hit a mob, get a charge, use charge staff, get one charge of charge staff, hit a mob, get 2 or 3 power charges, bring 1 to 4, and so forth and so on. Something I didn't know until earlier today was charge staff can get power charges and stack them up. So if I have 1 power charge and I use it, I get 1 charge of charge staff. If I then generate 3 more and use it, 3 plus 1 is 4, and I have 4 charges. And once I hit 7 stacks of charge staff, I just have 7 stacks. I only need 1 power charge from there to add the charge to charge staff. So as long as you get to 7, you can keep rolling. On top of that, every time my Falling Thunder has 5, 6, 7 charges and I attack, it hits the whole screen. It hits a bunch of mobs. All of those mobs get shocked and hit. The charges go 0 to 7, 0 to 7, 0 to 7, and just kind of like ricochets all over the place. So you constantly have this wide range of charges all the time where you can just constantly keep rolling and hitting. It doesn't matter that the charges fall off, because even if the charges fall off, you're hitting with Tempest Flurry anyways and building a bunch of charges back, or you're belling and hitting with Tempest Flurry and building a lot of charges back. The big downside to this, the first big downside that we mentioned, is that we are shocking ourselves, and we need to solve that. That is what we're currently working on. That is what I'm really open to suggestions for, and that is the current predicament that I'm right now in, that I'm trying to solve. 2, when I put on these gloves, I found these gloves. These gloves were relatively cheap when I bought them. The only person that would answer was a pair with reduced attack and cast speed at 14%. The 14% reduced attack and cast speed is very noticeable. I am attempting to solve that by getting the wheel down here. I need 1 more level to get more attack speed, and this wheel has helped dramatically in fixing that problem. So those are 2 major problems that we have. Well, problem's a big word. It's 2 inconveniences that we're currently trying to deal with to make the build feel a lot smoother and go a lot better. But this is early access. We're progressing, we're learning, so this is where we're at. On top of that, maps in themselves are just really hard. So with the monk, you're a melee character in maps. It feels hard. Maps are very rewarding when you get to juice them. The more difficult you make the map, the better it feels. Outside of that, our skills haven't really changed too much. We have our Falling Thunder. We have Perpetual Chance so that we can maintain the amount of charges and consistently keep hitting. We have Lightning Infusion for lightning damage and more lightning damage. We have Martial Tempo to give us more attack speed to fix that attack speed problem that we have. We have Tempest Flurry with Lightning Pen to penetrate a bunch of lightning damage, Close Combat because we're right up in front of the mob's face for more damage, and Rage to generate a bunch of rage to give us more damage. Our Killing Palm we're not really using that much anymore, but we still have it on with Life Drain so that we can drain a little bit of life. Our Tempest Bell we have with Font of Rage and Ruthless to give us that beautiful stun and more rage generation. We have Leap Slam on a weapon swap. I do have a weapon swap. I have this for Leap Slam so that during maps I can just kind of like, you know, just leap slam around and just kind of get a little bit of movement speed. It's pretty noticeable, the difference in movement speed, and it's been relatively nice. And with the way weapon swapping works in Path of Exile, it's really easy for me to swap between my skills and just leap all around without problems. Outside of that, we have Charge Staff. I'm looking for more Jeweler's Orb so I can put more things. I have Persistence on it for more skill effect duration. If you have other ideas for really good support gems for Charge Staff, I'm all ears. I have Herald of Thunder with Lightning Mastery to give me +1 level of supported lightning skill gems to give us more damage. You can see it adds about 100 more damage. And we have Conduction for more chance to shock so that we get that beautiful shock going. Because we have the gloves on and we electrocute, we can shock and electrocute, giving us 2 forms of ailments. And lastly, I put on Ghost Dance to give us the ability to regenerate a little bit of our evasion equal to 5, or energy shield equal to 5% of our evasion. Right now, I don't have a whole lot of evasion. I'm still working on it. When I get a lot more evasion, it'll be a lot better. We'll regain more, but currently, because we had to swap out our body armor, we've lost a lot of evasion. But we'll get it fixed and working and updated, and we'll get new boots and a new helmet. Eventually, we'll swap out the gloves for something else, or we'll swap out the body armor if we find better ways to generate power charges. Swapping out the armor is going to be the biggest thing. Like, once we figure out power charges or find better tech for power charges, that's not 1 charge every 2 seconds or off the corpses, or we just deal with it and go off the corpses with a profane ritual, will feel really good. But right now, this quality of life is too good to pass up on for me. I don't know about for you, but for me, I really enjoy the quality of life of the body armor. I'm going to be exploring and looking for other options. But overall, the monk in itself is filled really, really, really good. And, you know, we did make some changes because we are focused more on power charges. We removed a lot of the crit nodes that we have, and the tree has been updated. You can see we removed some of the power for the physical charges because we've learned how conversion works. So we removed some of those, and we took all of the power charge nodes so that we can get more power charges. These 3 wheels of nodes here, one here, and one up here, is what gives us that beautiful 7 charges. Now, the really cool thing about these power charge nodes is the first one here says +1 to power charge and gives us critical damage bonus. We have a 20% chance to crit. We crit pretty often on 20%, not enough to be happy, but still pretty good. So we get a bunch of critical strike damage. This node down here gives us a chance at maximum power charges right off the rip. We're constantly generating charges. We constantly hit max power charges. Feels pretty good. We also get a bunch of bonus energy shields from these nodes down here. And this node over here gives us +2 to maximum power charges. Overall, feels really, really, really good. The lightning nodes are all still the same. Nothing here has changed. The attack damage nodes are all still the same. We did pick up life from death for recover life on kill. This has been great sustain. Thank you to all you guys who suggested it. We did pick up mindful awareness for more evasion and energy shield. We grabbed essence of the mountain to give us a little bit of cold and freezing. And we made some changes to the ascendancy tree, giving us lead me through grace and protect me from harm. This gives us the ability to get more spirit. I'm still searching for that nice last spot for spirit to use up this 54 that I have. And we get protect me from harm, which gives us evasion rating equal to our physical damage reduction. This has made my survivability go up really high. I really like this node a lot. I really like this combination a lot, and I'm still trying to get the maximum benefit out of it. Outside of that, the other big change that we made is we moved all of our crit nodes down here so that we get 1% flat crit on our attacks. This has been relatively good. It gives us a little bit of int as well. We changed a lot of our small nodes to mostly int and some dex to compensate for our skill gems that we're using. And then we came down here to grab the attack speed nodes. As I level up more, I would like to grab this last attack speed node, and then I'd like to come down here and grab this melee range strike chance. I do also want to experiment with trick shot. I think there's a world where trick shot and projectiles bouncing off of terrain will be really, really, really powerful with Falling Thunder. I haven't really had the opportunity to test it yet, but it's something that I would like to do. I know too, in this, I believe there is a chain or ricochet support gem that we can use that'll allow us to do the same thing. I haven't really put it in yet. I'm still looking for the GCP to put it in to really test and play around with it, but I would like to play around with this and see how it works with Falling Thunder. Eventually, I'll probably take one of these nodes out, put that in, and just kind of see how it works. There's a lot of maps that have these really weird, awkward walls and trees, and collision's kind of awkward on the monk. It reminds me a lot of Act 2 and the Dreadnought. When you're trying to do things on the Dreadnought, you know, the end of Act 2 zone, and everything's weird with the little bridge, and the Falling Thunder doesn't hit anything. It's just awkward. It's awkward. It's awkward. It's very awkward. But let's stop yapping and let's talk about maps. Mapping on the monk is fun. There's 2 modifiers to a map when we make our maps blue. There's a prefix and a suffix. The prefix is always a positive mod and the suffix is always a negative mod. So the negative mod here is the monsters gain maximum life as energy shield, and the positive is we get rarity. Maps are fun. I like maps a lot. Big things that have changed from maps is you can if you fail an area, you see here on the blooming fields, it says map attempted. You can rerun the map, no problem, if you fail an area, so you don't have to worry anymore about failing an area. If you do fail an area, the thing that you lose is you lose the league mechanic. So if I fail this area, I would lose the breach, I would lose the delirium, so forth and so on. So if I go attempt this area now, the deserted, and I fail, I will not be able to get the breach again, but I would be able to try the map again without a problem. When you go into a map, the hardest thing about going into a map is generating the first charge. Once we generate the first power charge and we get our staff up and running, we feel pretty good about ourselves. So we use our culling strike there, we generate some charges, and then we just kind of start going to town. You see, we generated a bunch of charges, we killed all the mobs, we're generating a charge, we're building our staff skills up, and now we can just kind of keep hitting and do what we need to do. Maps are relatively long, and I know there's a bunch of people who have been like, oh, there's no loot, loot feels really bad. I'll say this, when I make my maps harder, and I've tested Regaled maps and I've tested Alch maps, they have loot in them. I don't know if it's loot up to par to what people want, but they have loot in them. The problem is the damn maps are so hard, man. They're so ridiculously hard. Like this breach, we're gonna do that later. I'm not touching this breach yet because the breach is just, as a melee character too, so hard. Now you see right away we are indeed shocking ourselves. It feels bad. The shock doesn't last very long, and we're going through our map relatively easily. Falling Thunder makes mapping feel great. You know, it's just such an awesome feel good skill. It gives us plenty of range to do our thing. You see there, we just refilled our charged staff. Overall though, mapping with the monk has felt absolutely fantastic. You are a little squishy, I won't lie to you. You need to solve some defense issues. You eventually need to get, you know, a solution to the shock. Shock is gonna, like, my forefront idea right now is how do I fix this shock problem, and it's probably gonna be that belt, or I'm gonna see if there's other solutions. But mapping with Falling Thunder is great. You see everything just immediately right away gets stunned. I don't have to worry about anything. Everything right there. These mobs are all electrocuted. I'm running around so you can see. My clear range is actually massive, and this is one of the reasons right now why I want Ricochet. If we mess around, and I hope it works the way I think it works, is bouncing these chains off the wall will make this really strong. So it's something I'm going to be experimenting with after this video, and I have a little bit more time to sit down and play. The big thing though that I wanted to talk about with this video and get out to you guys was I wanted to showcase to you guys the changes that I've been making, what it looks like in a map, how hard endgame mapping is. You see everything right now is just hitting me like an absolute truck. But we have really good control over our map if we take it slow. I know a lot of people aren't going to want to take maps slow, but the nature of Path of Exile 2 in its current state is we need to go a little bit slow. We need to be more like in tune with what we're trying to do. And it'll get easier as we get more gear. It'll get smoother as we get more Jeweler's Orbs. We've seen this with other characters that have been progressing through the Atlas. Right now, it's just a look at that, man. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But right now, it's a big gear check. It's a big skill check. It's a patience check. And overall, this is indeed still early access, and a lot will change as we go on. My big thing is, if there's something you want to criticize about Path of Exile 2, you should absolutely positively file a player feedback report on the pathofexile2.com website. You go to the forums, there's places for players to submit feedback, and you should give them your feedback. The big thing too, outside of that, just try to have some fun. Your character is going to feel infinitely better once you start gaining some levels. And like, even with my monk, every single level that I gain is so much more power. It's mind-blowing to me how much every extra point is adding to the monk, making it feel just like this absolute monstrous powerhouse. I mean, look at it, like look at this, like this is insane, actually insane. You honestly can't beat it. Like the clear is just so good, especially if we have a way to just like infinitely generate the charges or to like constantly consume charges. I don't think we'll ever be able to use something like Ralakesh boots for the PoE1 players because we have to consume the charges and Ralakesh wouldn't consume charges. So like, I don't know, maybe there's something we could do. I do want to find ways to see if there's other uniques or fun, cool items that'll give us more power charges. I would like to be able to just stack my power charges to the moon. And there you go. We were stunned for a second. We were stuck in a corner. We hit the whole screen. Bada bing, bada boom, baby. Easy peasy. Okay. Now, if you're saying to me, wow, this map has no density, you're right, because I didn't roll the map for density. Unfortunately, because we don't have scours and we don't have transmute orbs, I can't just constantly re-roll my map to look for what I'm looking for. But there you go, map done. Feels really good. We're progressing and it is awesome. Though I wanted to get this update out to you guys. I wanted to show you guys what I'm working on. I have a couple of other ideas for the monk, things I want to try and experiment with. I've picked up a few nifty niche items that I'm going to be putting on the character and just overall looking at. So if you want to keep up to date with what I'm doing in the monk, don't forget to hit that bell button, that like button, the subscribe button, do all that fun YouTube jazz. You can also catch me live on Twitch and YouTube. I stream every morning, and on weekends I stream in the afternoons. and you'll be able to see everything that I'm doing live and be able to suggest changes in real time. But if you have ideas, or you're playing something cool, or you have some cool stuff that you want me to test for the monk, please let me know. But for now, friends, I'm gonna get this video out to you guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.